Hi, this is Bill with his stories, and today I have my friend Gina Paris with me, and we've been friends for a long time online. In fact, we're just talking a few minutes ago before coming on, and I knew that Gina was um, involved in coaching and a lot of other things, but didn't know that she was an artist. But today we're going to be specifically talking about creativity. Hi, Gina. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for the chance to talk about my
Yeah.
favorite subject.
Yeah, you're welcome, and I'm very curious, especially after we just had a few-minute conversation about you and creativity, and how did that all get started for you, your creative side of things?
I was born this way,
So
but
you're very right-brained then, huh?
100%. I'm
Oh.
left-handed and right-brained, for better
Uh,
or for worse, you know.
very, very cool. So, in going through school, then, like elementary, middle school, high school, you had some art classes, or did
As
that happen later on?
as often as possible, I would take art classes on
Ah,
Saturday mornings. My parents drove me across town,
oh, wow.
Spokane, Washington. Yes, for those art lessons.
Ah, so that was a very serious thing. I mean, serious in the sense that they saw your gifting and decided they wanted to help you grow that skill.
So sweet. Yes, because I was obsessed. And
And it sounds like it really filled your bucket when that happened then too, and happens now.
100%. Yeah. And then, like some people, I I realized, oh, I don't want to be a fine art major in college. I had tons
Hmm.
of classes in high school, and I thought I want to be a minister. So I didn't
Mm.
do anything for decades. I mean, decades.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
Um, then you, it sounds like based on that conversation, then you shifted more towards ministry opportunities. You got training in ministry, or that
Uh,
was just an opportunity that you were able to grow into?
that was vocational work after 3 years in Bible college. I went
Oh,
and became a full-time youth minister, and I did that in a couple different cities. Right.
oh wow. Okay. And then later on, you started getting regaining your interest in creativity. Is that right?
Yes, when I was, when we moved to a different city, my husband at the
Hmm.
time was military, and it's not like you just put in a resume any old place to be a minister. And
Right.
we lived in a small town, and so I became a performance and life coach, which was just the perfect blend of all my other obsessions, which were ministry and
Hmm.
neuroscience and performance.
Hmm.
And when I felt the leading away from that part of the real competitive, real masculine audience, I
Hmm.
wasn't sure what to do. So I picked up some paintbrushes and started painting and sharing my work on Facebook. And it was just really satisfying and fascinating.
Huh. Very cool. Now, just out of curiosity, more than anything else, that was specifically in sports that you were coaching back in those days. Is that correct?
It was purely mental skills coaching. So
Ah,
I worked with a lot of baseball
okay.
and entrepreneurs. And
Mm,
so I would, on my business card said I was the performance and life coach for the competitive soul. So
mm,
now I blend those insights that come from sports world and the art world, because the
mm,
athletes, the real competitive driver types, they definitely needed more creativity and more
mhm,
confidence in their creative side. And the artists tend to need more, drive and competitive
yeah,
spirit.
yeah.
So I even now, I share a lot of fitness and health and life side, integrating, being our own best art, for example, that all of it is creative.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, that's really interesting to me because I remember seeing various posts, and the reason I said sports was because you were involved. as I recall, maybe with your kids or something in sports heavily, and I knew that somehow that coaching related to that. So,
Hmm.
and in the meantime, you then really drew from your inner self and your creativity and decided to take on some serious artwork then, I guess. And you've done several since then. Is that correct?
Yes, I sometimes say that I do art. My umbrella process has to do with turning stress into strength or
Mm,
now turning stress into joy. I sold a brand called builttowin.com and I'm at builtforjoy.com. And part of that process happens to create a body of work as well, you know?
hmm.
So it's very much the creative process for both entering a peak state, but also for uh, learning how to speak the language of the spirit and how to walk in prophetic insight and just hear
Hmm.
from God and all those fascinating things that are completely underappreciated about the creative process.
Right. Now, that draws me to my next question would be more in the lines of when you go through that process, what does that feel like? What does that sound like? Do you pray? Do you not do anything and just draw, or do you ask the Lord for inspiration, or how does that work for you personally? And there's no right or wrong way. There are several of my art friends do different things for different opportunities, and just wondered how that works for you personally.
Sure. Part of that creative genius is such divergent thinking, which means
Yeah.
that it's never rarely the same. But I have whenever I want to paint something, my process is mostly abstraction. Yeah, after
Mm,
years of trying to be very realistic, I'm a little more bored by representational work, and so I
hmm.
abstract things more. And I'm always convinced of the fundamentals that we need to know, what's inspiring about this piece? Why do I want to paint it? What's it about? What do I want to communicate? So intention is a really strong piece, both in art and in life and in goal setting,
Hmm.
anything. So it starts with the why and the what, and then I don't ever draw before I paint. That's a different process. If I was
Hmm.
drawing, when I draw, it's like blind contour or contour, literally just to get in a different side of the brain or in my journal, maybe just
Mm.
visual journaling. But when I tend to paint really big or real colorful, and those things I want to do eh, more intuitively.
Yeah, as it happens for you, then.
Right, very abstract, a lot of maybe layers and then
Mm,
adding paint, taking away paint, negative painting, just a lot of exploration.
mm.
Sometimes when I go to art shows, I think, wow, there wasn't anything courageous here. Let's do something uncomfortable. So I try to make myself uncomfortable.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What kind of medium are you uh, relying on these days?
I definitely use acrylic paint, and partly because I do paint big and I don't
Mm,
want scarcity playing into how I'm playing with the materials.
hmm.
So I tend to use, golden or Liquitex or even sometimes student grade heavy body materials. And
Mm,
lately, just yesterday, I started mixing them with airbrush medium and little bottles
mm,
to see if I can change the texture and get different kind of textures for more
hmm.
fluid effects in the underpaintings and layers. But I love acrylic paint because I'm so restless and so impatient that it
Yeah,
lets me move ahead, while it can dry. It dries
yeah.
quickly.
Oh, that's cool. So, let's go back to maybe one of your last pieces or the one before that.
Sure.
Walk us through. how that sort of happened for you and your creative process in that one.
Well, one of them, I was just in my bedroom, and
Okay.
this one I wanted a personal piece, and I thought, well, I have a very French little, very feminine bedroom, and I thought
Hmm.
I would like some masculine energy in my bedroom. So I thought that would mean I want lots of rocks and water and like cliffs, and
Mm,
so I thought I'll just start with black. I'll use black and gold. I'll make it black and
mm.
gold and I'll see what happens. And then the design kind of emerged and I thought, "Oh, this is really beautiful. I see this waterfall in here and these this reminds me of this or that, but still quite abstract." And it reminded me of cliff jumping and I thought, "I want this to represent jumping into the waters with God jumping with me." And so
Hmm.
I thought this painting is called I'll Jump With You. And it only probably means it to me. You can see
Hmm.
one of the gold flecks looks like it could be a person on one of the boulders,
Hmm.
which is if you think it's a boulder, that's because you like, it's an abstract enough that you can tell, um,
Hmm.
or realist, whatever, symbolism enough.
Hmm.
Then I just kept wanting more layers and more mystery. And I thought I'd put this big moon thing in there. And I'm like, oh, that looks dumb. So you just kind of come and go and make more layers. It works better when I listen to music um,
Mm,
that means something to me sometimes.
yeah.
So I love having the AirPods in or
Mm,
just, the music in the room.
hmm.
And it was lots and lots of layers, and I just kept loving it. It's one of my favorite paintings.
So in that process, you say you listen to music sometimes, etc. Um, do you necessarily um, do you always go in, like to do it in the studio or your home, or do you do it other places also?
My best work happens here at the studio for sure.
Hmm.
I do paint with other artists
Oh, cool.
as we're all so isolated, so we kind of joke
Hmm.
our painting gets in the way of our socializing. So we don't bring our most important things. Plus, it is that my girlfriend's really, really gorgeous mansion, which is impeccable. And I'm like, oh gosh, bring, I'll bring my watercolors.
Right. You can clean your mess up then.
Oh my word. And I'm still the messiest one in the room. We can always tell where I was.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Um, with that um process, once it's completed, you mentioned earlier just about the prophetic. Now, do you tend to do some of those kinds of things, or is
Uh,
that some other friends who do that?
I love this saying by a secular philosopher that all art is prophetic. So my vision of what's prophetic, somebody asked me once, "Do you do prophetic art?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but you won't find me making Jesus on a horse with a sword coming out of his mouth." And he laughed and goes, "That's what all our art is in our house." He was joking, but a lot of what people call prophetic art, it's all it means different things. I think all art is prophetic, and so mine means something, but I'm not trying to make representations of Jesus or the spirit realm or
Right.
representational symbols to mean anything.
Yeah, when I
It,
use prophetic art, I meant like you think of it as more in a broad sense, and I agree with you about that too.
Yeah, and a lot of times I'll write the intention in charcoal on the canvas before paint even goes on there. And I am 100% convinced that healing happens in the rooms where my art is hanging because
Mm,
I'm a stand for healing
mm-hmm,
and beauty and fullness.
mm, mm,
And I love it. I love it. One time, somebody wanted me to paint four angels to go over the bed where her father died in their house.
mm,
because he had seen four angels, before he passed.
Mm.
And it was such a great painting. I love it. It was, I had them in different colors to represent spring, summer, winter, and fall.
Mm.
He died just like 15 months after his wife of, 60 years or some.
Oh my
I
goodness.
put a symbol kind of them between the angels on either side. And it was so beautiful. When she opened it, she just cried and all the grief left her. And
Mm.
she said, all I ever have to do is walk in this room and look at that painting whenever I'm sad. And she says the grief just goes. And so sometimes I'll do those abstractions for someone grieving or something, the abstract angel.
Hmm.
Really special. And sometimes I think, it's so cheesy. Can I get away from angels? I don't do them so much.
Hmm.
And then they're always a treat when I do.
Mm.
But I consider the works that are landscape or flowers or they're representational enough that you can tell they're flowers or landscape. I say where heaven meets earth.
Yeah.
Um, I think they're every bit as prophetic. They
Mm.
mean They mean for the energy of beauty.
Hmm. Hmm.
Dostoevsky said that in his character, said that beauty will save the world.
Mm.
One of my favorite quotes. And I
Mm.
think it's something for us to take back. The art world tends to be so weird and
Yeah.
avant-garde, the most high end, very weird and
Yeah.
we're so edgy and avant-garde. We create this hideous stuff and call it art. And I'm like, oh, heck no, not on our watch.
Now, you mentioned too in our conversation earlier that you went through a really difficult time and you found art as being healing for yourself then too. So is that part of your experience even today, is that you find it an emotional healing time for you?
Yes, 100%.
Mm.
And what's really great is finally, like I said, the friends I paint with in their $6 million house, everyone
Hmm.
thinks so great. I thought I need to open my studio, even though it's not that fancy. And so in the last few weeks, I've been opening my Built for Joy Club local and let people know that they can come paint. And even if you're a non-artist, because it has been meeting week in, week out for the last almost 6 years with my other artist friends
Hmm.
that we bonded and I made it through, in my case, my divorce and just a heartbreaking transition and I was an empty nester. Like, where were my people? And
Hmm.
so just the process of connecting over art is so great and watching
Hmm.
it grow. And now I'm just like looking at my super messy table right now with yesterday's work, from the gals that came over yesterday. They're bonding with each other. Some of them had never met me before they come over. Each week is a few different people, and it's absolutely priceless. And I've heard each week somebody says, I'm being healed somehow. And not even in that case, just through the art,
Hmm.
but through the way everyone's guards are down and we have the most authentic conversation.
Hmm.
And it's such a gift.
Hmm. That's very cool. Yeah, I know for myself that I went through a difficult time years back, and that really did a lot of personal healing for me as I did my art. And I look back and see that as a turning point for me emotionally, because I saw the Lord really using that art and that artwork during that time for me to heal my heart completely from
Oh,
the difficult time that I went through. So I can relate completely with that.
absolutely. Yeah, in fact, I was showing the gals I have a big spiral visual journal.
Hmm.
I was wanting to show them some neurographic work that I had done, and I flipped open to a page from several years ago saying, I feel like I'm supposed to believe God for this house in Thompson Station. It would absolutely take a miracle to get this 5-bedroom house. And I
Mm.
looked at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the house. where we're at right now.
Oh my Lord,
It,
that's awesome.
yes, and so just flipping through, I had not pulled this off the shelf in so long, and just flipping through, page after page of processing and promises, and it was so moving.
Hmm,
So I want everyone to do that. There's just so
hmm.
many examples of God saying things to me, and there were days I thought, wait, I'm writing too much. It should be more pictures. But Leonardo da Vinci, he put all of his together, drawings, grocery lists.
Yeah, yeah. And we
Yeah,
tend to, as creatives, we tend to be wired kind of that way too. It's all kind of jumbled together.
yeah, he had like 1,200 of those. So
Oh my goodness. Well,
uh,
that's very
everyone-
cool. Now, as far as your process goes, though, um, you tend to walk through with the Lord, just very step by step, kind of you experiment here, you experiment there, and it's a little more abstract, it sounds like.
correct.
Hmm. Hmm. Very cool. That is very awesome. Well, I've really enjoyed talking with you today, Gina, about your creative experiences. And I enjoy having people on his stories. And it's been a real blessing to me today, Gina, just
Thank you.
engaging with you about your experiences with your Christianity and also with your creativity and your art. So, thanks for joining me today on his
My
stories.
pleasure. Thank you.
Great.